Hello, everybody. I I wanted to give you a quick update on this whole water leakage situation, and I've kind of already did everything. I didn't want to bore you all to death and bore myself for that matter because I've already filmed most of this stuff that I did today right prior to filming, before, so I didn't want to do the whole repeat. But anyway, as you all know, or might know, I've been experiencing still a water leak right here, only on the driver's side. And the last time I did this, it got wet. I experimented. Now it is dry. It has dried up. So what I've tried to do is I've been trying to run some experiments because there are so many things underneath the hood, in the body, all the water dissipation technology that's inside here. I think, space shuttle is probably less complicated than all this, at least for me. So what I did, since I couldn't get my car to a mechanic at a dealership to take a look at, so I started just running some experiments. And, once again, I took everything off of here. I cleaned, I checked, I rechecked, I put it back together. Then I remembered that I had these two things to pump up water balloons. So I filled those out and I started, looking around. And what I started doing was I started just putting water here and observing how it flows. And this is what I observed. So ignore the duct tape for now. But what I observed is that the way this thing is designed, and it might not be new for most of you, but it is for me, because I never had to care about how water flows on a car. So how it flows here, so this is one way it's supposed to flow, this is the second way it's supposed to flow, and then the thirdly, there's a thing on the other side, and it's not actually the windshield wipers, but it is indeed through here. This is how it's supposed to flow. Now there's a drain valve here, but that's only in case of emergency. That's in case if the water overflows in here. I'm thinking maybe this is designed for like a car wash use, or maybe if there's like a big hurricane or something. I don't know. But technically water is not supposed to end up in here. See, I'm all learning this because up until recently, I owned cars like this or like that, the white one. And I never had to care about it. I don't believe I ever had water inside my car, but I love this town car, so I take the good with the bad. But now I have to become a hydro, scientist to understand how water dissipation technology works. So anyway, I observed this, and when water goes in here, right underneath there, and in that other wiper, and in here, I don't get any leaks. Now, I mentioned this before, that the previous owners, whoever they were, they sealed this on one side because I believe they had a leak where if water hits the windshield, when it goes down, it doesn't go into one of these channels or in the windshield wiper there or there, but it goes underneath the plastic, and that's when it starts leaking. So I've experimented. I just kept pouring water and observing. And what I ended up noticing is that this thing right here, this is where the duct tape comes in, or Gorilla tape in my case, but might as well be duct tape. So I pointed out that this thing is not flushed. For whatever reason, this plastic and this gasket is warped. So what I started observing is in the beginning, and I put very little water, but as it started rolling down, it goes underneath the plastic. And very little of it actually gets down to here, where it's supposed to go through there and drain out down there. So what ends up happening, and I don't know how it dissipates underneath, but when it goes underneath the plastic here before hitting there, this is when it ends up right up here, right underneath my feet. Now, as soon as I realized this, I obviously stopped, and this is dry. So not enough water ended up here. But I'm pretty certain now that I identified the problem. Now, how does it come from up there to right up here? I have no idea. You know, logic would tell me that it would drip up from there and go here, but no, because this is dry. So somehow it flows. I don't know if it flows like through here and then starts pooling here. I have no idea. Where is it coming from? You know, I don't know. It doesn't drip from underneath here. So somewhere, somehow, water finds a way of starts pooling right up here. Now, currently it is dry because as soon as I noticed it, I stopped. I went and got this Gorilla Tape and I taped off, as you can see, this entire section, basically where the plastic and the gasket and the windshield. And I did it up to that point right here. Right here. Right there. Because the previous owner sealed the rest of it. Now it's someday it might crack or something, but for now it's holding just fine. So when I did that, this is where I started pouring pretty heavily. So I put both of these bottles and I just kept spraying on the windshield on both sides, and I just saw how the water kept going down and draining out. And that's exactly what happened. On that side, it went out that drain tube. In the middle, I don't know. There does not seem to be, at least I have an 06, I don't know, maybe it's different, but I don't seem to have anywhere where it drains out here. I'm not sure. Maybe this is something on the earlier models. Like I've seen some videos of other people and like there's clearly a drain there, but they were not of the same year, so I have no idea what happened there. But anyway, nothing drains out in the middle, but I don't know if it's somehow interconnected and it all drains out from there. But the bottom line is, everything get drained out fine, and none of the water ended up inside. So the inside is dry right now. And I also checked all four corners. Once again, I don't want to bore you to death, and it's been kind of boring filming the same thing over and over again. So I got the rubber floor made off, but I checked, I lifted and made sure. So this leads me to believe that when this plastic is raised and when the gasket doesn't contact the glass, this is where, at least in my case, when I get water inside, because currently it's dry, and the only thing I did that's any different was I put that tape. So I created a very, very, very temporary solution. And what I'm going to be doing, I'm not going to be filming this because once again it's the same old, but I will be sealing that up the same way like it was there, in hopes that I isolated and I identified the problem. Alright, so as you guys can see, the tape is off, and I've applied just a normal gasket maker right here. I wasn't probably as careful as I should have been, so I'll scrape once it kind of dries out. All this extra stuff I'll scrape off. So I was specifically going more for just get the most coverage possible instead of actually going very carefully. So I use some of the very basic tools here. This is the stuff that I've used. Actually surprised that I didn't end up using more of it. But yeah, this thing spreads like a thick paste. So I put some here because there's also some weird gap here, and this is kind of what the previous owner did. So I don't know, I'm starting to think that maybe they did it for a reason. So I've added a little more. Sorry, can't focus much. There you go. So I'm gonna let this thing dry, then I'm gonna clean it up a little more, and we'll see what happens. Although the sun is shining and the weather has been pretty nice, in the mid-November we're hitting 70s. So, but it's going to be a pretty big thunderstorm according to what I'm seeing, and this would be a good way to see whether or not this does anything. And I'm really hoping that it does, because ultimately I'm getting tired of this stuff. All right, yeah, I'll clean it out, and we'll see what happens. All right, so after going at it for a bit, I ended up just spreading it around, making an extra gasket right there, and I stopped there at the joint. So it's not my finest work, as you can see. It's a little messy, but at the same time, I wanted to apply more material, and then I just scraped some of the excess off with this. But at the same time, like if I start going in like much closer to the edge, I am afraid that I'm gonna nick where I made the gasket. So, and ultimately, I don't want to have to do this again. So yeah, there you go. There's where it stopped. So I can tell anyone who is planning to do this, I think using a caulk gun is a lot better, because at some point your stream, if you're squeezing it out of a tube, ends, and then you end up with stuff like this where you kind of have to, re-squeeze it. So, it's not the most beautiful thing ever. And then if you look on this side for comparison, whoever did this before me, yeah, they did a much nicer job here, much cleaner. And you can kind of see, like, I had a good run, like, right here. Like, I'm kind of proud of this little line right there, but then that didn't go so well and over there. But you know what, ultimately, I really don't care. Like I said in some of my other videos, I realized that my car is never going to be new again. So I'm kind of just doing what I can to keep this barge afloat. And this is what I was kind of talking about, that to get the windshield wipers in this position, I have to pretty much stop them halfway. So I don't know, I never had a car like this. I see most cars these days, they changed their design, and this is no longer an issue. Like here's a newer style Impala that my neighbor has, and as you can see, their windshield wipers are, they're exposed more. Here, I don't know if they were going more for the sleeker look, or maybe the length of the hood plays a role, but at the same time, this is not a short hood either. So yeah, so I kind of have to, so anytime I have to work on my wipers, or like even change them, because I can't fold them out, I have to stop them mid-range like this, and then do this. So yeah, I don't know. Designers, I think, overcomplicated it. Anyway, well, I hope that this plays out. I will film next time it rains, and it's actually supposed to rain in the next day or two, so let's see what happens. Alright, so this would be a great test for my fix of that extra rubber gasket. As you can see, it's really coming down, so we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so if this test is not passed, then obviously I'll know we have a leak, because you can see it's coming down like sheets of rain, and I'm just filming just to make sure that I have it captured on camera. And I'm pretty happy that I did this fix right the day before, so it had some time to dry out and cure, because if it wasn't for that, I would have been in trouble. I would have been swimming right now. Oh, wow. All right. Maybe I should watch the road and not film. How about that? All right, peoples. I went through a freaking monsoon yesterday, and I was really hoping that this, whatever I did right here, the whole sealing of this thing, to make a one solid connection, that it did its trick. So here you go. It's the moment of truth. So let's move this away. Now it is cold. The temperature dropped like 40 degrees. It went from being like 75 to like 37 or something like that. You know what? I think it's dry. Now it's cold, so I can't really tell. But let's see, what about here? Yeah, look, it is dry. It is dry. Okay. We might have fixed this. I can't get this thing back in there. There you go. Yeah. Now it was a lot more wet when I just barely poured some water in it from from the water gun and from whatever else I was using. Okay.
So here's a moment of truth. Okay, all right. So I'm channeling my inner Matthew McConaughey. All right, all right, all right. Yeah, it's dry down there. Let's see. Let's do a couple more tests. All right. Passenger rear. Dry. Let's see. Let me double check. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm going too fast from all the excitement. Yeah, look, dry. Because otherwise it would have ended up, you know, the rubberized portion would have been wet noticeably. All right, let's close this down. And the last but not least, oh my God, I cannot believe it. So, I want to say that whatever I did here solved the problem. Now keep in mind, I'm not a mechanic, and my repair was just based on my own observation how the water, you know, if put here, would drip down and obviously end up flowing between the plastic and the glass and somehow ended up on the inside of my car. Considering the freaking, you know, monsoon/hurricane I drove through last night, if this would have been like the way it was before, I would have been swimming inside. And now, with, you know, just a little bit of gasket maker, granted it's not very pretty, I could have done a more beautiful job, but honestly I just wanted to get it over with. I think it's fixed. So if your town car is leaking, and you know, and you've tried this, you've tried that, try to make sure that the plastic meets the glass with a strong connection. And maybe, just maybe, this is the solution to a dry town car. Hope it helps. See you all next time.